So let's talk about performance of a cloud infrastructure, and especially let's talk about the software component of performance. So when we start looking at cloud infrastructure, we want to make sure that our presentation of our software, right, is performing to expectation. So how do we do that? We know that within the software there are many components. Let's say here, for example, for this um, picture here, we may have some sort of, image library that we access, right? Whatever that looks like, LIB. All right, and we have some data fields, right? So we're going to access some sort of data structure, right? Maybe a database itself. So we'll put here data. And then here we have some open text. Let's just say this text, we access some sort of HTTP type of traffic with gets and puts, right? Of course, which is happening to everything. So we have these three, and I've just highlighted three of them. There could be lots of different components that make up software as a service or software within your environment. So this is just one example of that. So how do you manage the performance of all of that information? And that's what is critical. So what we want to do in a cloud environment is within the cloud itself, we want to build up a software performance framework. Now, why do we call it a framework? Well, because every application and every need is a little bit different, but there are some things that are shared within the framework. So one of the things that we need to look at is actual performance itself, right? And so when we look at those performances, so for example, for application 1 within your environment, let's kind of divide this up, what this framework would look like. So application number 1, number 2, application number 1, we need to look at performance. So we agree that performance is a critical metric that we need to associate with. So we're going to put here metric. And so here we're going to say in application number 1, our performance metric is going to be made up of a database. So some sort of data structure, right? Remember, we've got data here. And it's going to be putting some sort of images out. Let's just say as an example. And then application, so we'll put images down here. And then application number 2, that performance is going to be dependent on, let's just say, data. Got lots of data here, right? And this is, we're talking about things like SQL, Oracle, right? Whatever the data structure happens to be. So we're going to have data. And then let's say that we're going to just deliver basic text out to the screen. So we're going to have some, HTTP type of calls. So that could be coming from like a IIS server or an Apache server or whatever. And so we need to make sure that we monitor the performance related to these applications and have a framework that's capable of watching what's going on. So we want to watch in application 1 the performance related to application number 1. And then of course we want to watch and do a metric of performance on application number 2 related to its data and its text files, for example. And so the framework itself actually plugs in these different components found within each of the applications. So each application will vary a little bit, but what a software performance framework does for us is it allows us to establish this core foundation, right, by which everything comes from. And so all of the applications, it's kind of wrapped within our cloud environment, this framework, right? And kind of getting a little crazy with the squiggly lines there. So it's wrapped within our framework itself. And then as applications come on, we add these different components to manage performance. And this, of course, is our end user who has SLAs or something around software as a service that requires us to manage all of this performance. And then, of course, these metrics report out in some sort of report, so a metric report that we can base our SLAs and customer satisfaction and things like that off of. So that is a software performance framework. Would strongly suggest if you're looking at cloud technology that you make sure whoever's providing that cloud technology has it for you. There are some great products in the market. One certainly is Foglight. This is a Dell product that allows you to manage it, and there are other vendors in the marketplace as well that have them for your purchase. So software performance frameworks.